Hello and welcome to my channel. This is Lisa with Lisa's Faith and Budget Planning channel. I'm excited to be here today and I'm excited to be here with you getting into closing out my April budget. Now I am several days late on doing this, mainly because I was out of town and could not film and was taking care of a lot of business. But I wanted to go ahead and do a video to show the closeout for those of you that follow my budgeting journey and how I ended up with the number I ended up balancing forward from the month of April to the month of May. So if you've seen my May budgets, and some of them, I do apologize how squeaky my voice is because I was not feeling well. I apologize. I shouldn't have done it that way, but I did. I did balance forward a certain amount of money, $2,370.12. This was the money that was at the end of April that was sitting in the checking account the night before all the deposits hit for the first of the month checks. So that happened, but I haven't gone over the rest of the spending. So today I'm closing out my weekly check-in right here, and I've already written all the numbers in, so I've got them under sticky notes, and we're just going to go over the numbers for the most part, but I am going to do this and the transaction and come up with the balance that I came up here. And then we're going to close out the weekly check-in, week 5, and then we're going to close out paycheck 2. I've already got the numbers down. I needed to know if I had the right number, so I went ahead and did it off camera, but we'll go over it here on the in the video so you can see where I got my numbers from. Whew, that was a mouthful. Let's go back. So, week 5 of the weekly check-in, April of 2024. I've already written down all the different grocery items here at the bottom. So, the first thing we have here is $36 at Meijer. To be honest, I cannot tell you what half of this stuff was because it's last month, and some of it my husband purchased, and some of it I purchased. If it was Meijer, though, no, I probably purchased it. I drove to North Carolina on Saturday. So I was still home here. And there's 2 Meijer. One was probably my husband buying stuff and one was me buying stuff. So that's probably what that is. So $36 was grocery items that I purchased. I'm pretty sure about that. And then $45.57 my husband bought stuff. And it comes out of the grocery category. So that is that. Now I did do, I don't know how to pronounce this. It's W-E-I-G-E-L-S, Waggles. It's a gas station. It's a fancy one. And I ran in and got some snacks, but I also filled up with gas. This is while I was driving. I think this is in Bristol, Tennessee, on my way to North Carolina. So this $10.10 was some snacks to get me to North Carolina, something to drink, things like that. I just got it on the road. And the next thing I have here is our end of the month subscribe and save supplements that I get for my family that we use pretty regularly. I'm not going to list what they are. I'm just going to list the amount and match them here. So I have $22.25, $9.56, $20.96, $12.68, and then my husband went to the grocery store and got milk and some biscuits and stuff like that. I don't know, something along those lines. And that was $15.14. He did not grocery shop much, but I did buy a lot of groceries ahead of time of this, and so he wouldn't have to buy too much. And so that turned out pretty good. So let's go ahead and get this total and find out how much in week 5 that we spent on groceries. All right, so on the last week of April, we spent $172.67. I'm sorry, $172.26. What am I saying? I'm tired. I didn't realize how tired I was until just now. All right, so moving on to restaurants. Put this over here. And I checked off all that. Okay, so my husband, as always, ordered Papa John's for the boys. Oh, I forgot something, I think. Oh no, here it is. So I would just wrote them in different order. So that was $38.10. He did a pizza delivery at the house with tip. And then we, on Friday night, my husband and I went out to dinner before I went out of town. And that was Casa Fiesta. He wanted Mexican, so we got $49.18. And that includes a really good tip. We try to do $10, $12 a tip regardless, because we want to give to as many people as we can. So when we do go out to eat, we try to give, maybe not be overly generous, but at least 20%, 22%, depending on where we're at, of giving in tip regardless, because they have families to feed, they have bills to pay and everything. So yeah, we like to make sure we're giving and doing it properly. So here, okay, I have the same number twice, and I know exactly why. So my husband picked up McDonald's for dinner for everybody. It was $32.09. I wasn't there. I was out of town, and usually 3 nights a week the family eats chicken. And when I say the family, I mean my sons. So they eat chicken, and my husband doesn't typically cook chicken, so he went and got nuggets or something chicken related at a restaurant. It's usually McDonald's or Chick-fil-A. If you saw my May video of me, but during the first 7 days of May in my weekly check-in, you would have seen a lot of those transactions. Then I realized on the 19th, way back here, there was a McDonald's purchase too. Was it 19th? No, it had to be the 18th. I wrote 19th. It was probably 18th. Regardless, yeah, that's Thursday. Thursday's chicken night. So the 18th, my husband got chicken, and I did not put it here, and I needed to. So because I missed it here, I added it on the 28th, and that was $32.09. Again, the exact same order, so it costs exactly the same for all of them. And now my credit card was in balance. Okay, so let's total up what I have in restaurants and see how much is left there. So $49.18 plus $38.10 plus $32.09 plus $32.09. There we go. The way I caught the mistake was my credit card, when I went back to pay it, it still had $32.09 of charges on there, and I'm like, I must have missed something, and sure enough I did. I missed a transaction. Even though I pay it off every week, sometimes there's still pending transactions, and somehow I missed it, but I caught it, and we're catching up on that, so that works. So there we go there. Now miscellaneous. We only had one miscellaneous item on Amazon. For life me, I can't think of what it is. It was $10.71. Yeah, I can't think that far back. So whatever it was small, but it was fine. The next thing we have is gasoline. So I have 2 gas purchases here. And on this Saturday, this is my vehicle. And one, I topped off the gas tank because I was at half a tank maybe, or just above half tank. And I got gas at the Marathon station down the road from my house. And that was $38.64. And then that was to get me a full tank before I got on the road and left for Raleigh, North Carolina. And then I filled up again when there's a certain place, it's not halfway, but it's close enough to halfway. It's in Bristol, Tennessee, and it's at the Pinnacle. If you go through that area, you know what I'm talking about. I think it's exit 74, and we take 11W off that exit. So anyways, if you know the area, you know what I'm talking about. And so I stopped at this other gas station where I got the snacks and spent $39.10 right there. And that got me all the way to Raleigh and still had a half tank. So there we go. So on that day, I spent $38.64 plus $39.10. $77.74. All right. I had no copay transactions, no unbudgeted, and only one bill. And it was a bill I added. Really, it wasn't a bill. It was just I had my husband take my car in for an oil change. I didn't want to put it under unbudgeted, so I just put it under bills. And just not sure why I did it that way. I just felt like doing it that way. Let me see. My little sticky note fell off. There we go. So I added it here, Valvoline, and then the oil change and the amount right there. So you will see that here. And it basically, it's coming out of the buffer, the checking account, whether I write it there or whether I do it as a unbudgeted item like I did earlier in the month. I just marked it as a bill. So that is there. And this is everything that I spent that I needed to pay the credit card back. I've already done this transaction, but we're going to go through the numbers here in a second on what I had to pay the credit card. Now, we know these totals over here. In fact, I'm going to do this. And we know how much we spent. So I'm just going to kind of pull this one sticky note up at a time. And we're going to look at it. So I spent $172.26. And then that left me $201.48 for the month left in grocery household. So we did pretty good with grocery household. I was gone a lot. They waited to buy things and until I got back a lot of cases. So they were just bare minimum, you know, getting groceries while I was gone. I had a negative $71.18 when with restaurants, and I spent $151.46 in restaurants, me and my family. So we were over budget by $222.64 in restaurants. Now this had to do with travel. This had to do with my parents being in town and we took them out to eat or things like that. So yeah, that's why it was high. But as you can see, the groceries pretty much canceled that out. And it was not that big a deal, and we didn't have to really take out of the buffer the checking account. Next thing we have is miscellaneous. Spent $10.71. I have no idea what was spent. I'd have to really look that up. We had $118.22 left over. So we're doing really good in miscellaneous, not spending it. I might even drop it in the future by $100 or so. That's a little scary, but I think it's good because we've had $100 left over consistently since I stopped buying stickers and things like that. So yeah, I think I might do that in my June budget. So we'll have to wait and see, but that definitely, these two definitely took care of any overages that were caused by restaurants. And so we're going to move on to gas. So I did spend more in gasoline, and just because I was traveling, and it was only less than $20, so we're good to go there. The co-pays, we didn't have a lot of doctor's appointments or copay needed. We didn't spend anything in copay, so obviously we were good to go, and I can take these off now. These here, those were the final numbers. And that's where we were at. Even though we were over, we still had, that's 200, 300 plus the 80, you know, that's plenty to cover the overages there, and we're good to go. So I'm glad we got that taken care of. Now let's look and see how much I owed the credit card with all these transactions plus this one bill, which you'll see in paycheck 2. I made it a bill. It was oil change. But they are expensive for my vehicle, high mileage, things like that. All right, we needed to pay the credit card $376.62. And this closed out all the spending for the month, and that was paid. So we are good to go there. Now that we know what the credit card payment was and that we paid it all, that's what these check marks represent. Now my numbers were skewed, which is why you see a lot of erase marks here. And what happened was one of my transactions wasn't right on my paper, and I forgot that 3209 with McDonald's transaction, so it was throwing things off. And while I was out of town trying to do all this, it was crazy. So, oops, did I lose it? No. Okay. Here is paycheck 2. We're closing out paycheck 2. Now, when I budget, I do have a monthly budget, and I'll show you that too. I have a monthly budget, and moving my sticky notes there. And with my monthly budget, it's great to have a monthly budget. It's great to have it all on one page. Here's the problem. I can't fit everything on here. I have all these different additional transactions for deposits or transfers of income. I have extra things that were spent that aren't listed here, and I just kind of had to add a sticky note to give me a number to make it work and force it to work. So I'll show you that in a minute, but right now I prefer to do the monthly budget, just a budgeting column. That's what I prefer to do. I do come back and make sure the math is right, but I really don't depend on this for the end of the month. I just don't have enough room. So if you're a monthly budgeter and you're frustrated like that, just do the monthly budget to find out if you have enough income to cover all the expenses that you plan for the month. And then when transactions happen and when changes happen, like these extras I weren't expecting, an adjustment I had to make because I couldn't figure out where I made my mistake, and you're not going to get so frustrated, break it down to your paycheck periods. That way you have room to write and you can ignore the monthly, because that is one snapshot, one moment in time that you are looking at, and it didn't know that what the check was going to be when you paid the rest of the siding. You didn't know that your husband was going to lock himself out of his vehicle and have to pay a locksmith. You didn't realize you were going to transfer money back into your savings account after the siding was paid for, so that you wouldn't spend it when you didn't need to. You didn't know it was time for an oil change because you didn't pay attention. You know, these things pop up, and it's hard to fit that on this monthly budget. So I like my paycheck to paycheck budget. Now we're going to talk about paycheck 2, closeout. This will close out my budget for the entire month. Okay, I'm back. I had to stop filming. My battery died. I'm back. So paycheck 2, we're closing it out. I already ran the numbers, but we're going to go over them together, and I'm just going to walk you through what happened and where our numbers come from. So first thing we have is our income. Now we know we balanced over at the end of paycheck 1 into paycheck 2. This was the cash sitting in my checking account the night before my husband's paycheck deposited. Now I had estimated what his previous check was to be this check, but because it fluctuates due to him working in different counties, and they depend on what county he's working in, depends on how much money they take out. So it fluctuates a little bit. Average about $1,315 is what he averages, a little more, a little less, every paycheck period, and that's twice a month. Also this month, while I was out of town, my husband got a hold of our financial advisor, said, we have retirement accounts, not several, but maybe 2 or 3 retirement accounts. And he wanted to consolidate that into one, roll it all over into one account. He didn't want all these different 401ks and thrift savings and all these retirement accounts out there and then not having contact with any of those people. He just wanted it under one umbrella. So one of those accounts was thrift savings plan that he started when we were active duty Navy, and then he only paid into it maybe a year or 2 at the most, and then let it grow on its own. And it was sizable, but it wasn't that great because he had it in a very conservative area, so it really didn't grow that much. But he just needed to roll it into something. So we rolled it over, everything except for this $704.85. And that, I don't know the math or the reason why I wasn't there when he did it, but everything got put into a new account. I'm not sure what accounts he's got, but it's all retirement accounts. And I guess a brokerage account maybe. It was, I don't know. I have to talk to our financial advisor because I was not here when he did all this. But regardless, this came over and we were like, okay. And we just left it in the checking account. It's just sitting there. It's a buffer in our checking account because I may have to travel back to Raleigh again, depending things going on. I may not. I don't know. It just depends. So we're leaving a good amount of cash in the buffer of our checking account and not spending it unless we make a conscious decision on needs of the family and things that I've been taking care of outside of our family. And I just want to make sure the money's there readily available, and until everything settles down. So let's total these numbers up and find out how much cash was sitting in the checking account for paycheck 2 during this paycheck time period. All right, so we have $7,162.34. This was what was sitting in the checking account. That was the cash flow we had for paycheck 2 time period, and it covers all our bills and expenses. Now moving on to this month's bills. So this was our fixed expenses right here. And the only thing that really changed was this AT&T. It was just a few dollars. Let's see how much it is. $285.49 minus a $282.61. $2.88. So apparently we needed to add more fees to the AT&T bill. I looked at it. That's what it is. They just fluctuated the fees. I think it has something to do with the fact that the area I'm living in is growing. They're tearing down a lot of beautiful farmland and putting apartment complexes and housing neighborhoods, expecting growth. So, and with growth comes new fees and changes and so on and so forth. So we're going to total up all these bills and find out how much we spent on our bill expenses for paycheck 2 time period. Okay, so here for our fixed expenses, we have $2,853.67, and that's what I have written down here. These are my variable expenses, or anything I added as a bill during this to take out of the buffer, the checking account during this paycheck period. As you saw before, my weekly check-in, I'm way over on not groceries, but on restaurants. So there's that. Okay, so the first thing we have is grocery household. I have $1,130.06. We spent $928.58. You may wonder where I got this number from. Paycheck 2 was week 3, 4, and 5 of the weekly check-in. This is where I get my numbers from. So 161.96 plus the 594.36 plus the 172.26. All of them ended in 6. Wow. Anyway, so that is where you total those numbers up, and this is where you get the information from. Now, restaurants. We spent, we budgeted $384.64 for week 3, 4, and 5 totaled together, and we spent $607.28 combined for those 3 weeks. Way over budget there. We had $231.84 and we spent $113.62. Okay, $141.05 for gas. And we spent $160.20 for gasoline. So that's that difference there. It was $19 and some change. $19.15. That was over there. Copays. We had $18.10 this month. We did not have doctor's appointments, and the prescriptions were low. I have 0 from budgeted. I did do it a 6 cents adjustment. I'm not sure where the math went wrong, but I always say if it's just a few dollars or just a few cents, I just do an adjustment and move on, because my bank account tells me how much money is left over of what I actually have, and the actuals is actually the bank account, regardless of what's on paper. So I'm going to leave that adjustment there. And then Valvoline oil change was $110.71. We just go one of those drive-thrus. It's amazing. I love those. Okay, so we're going to total this column up. These are my variable expenses, and see how much that was. All right, so I am showing $1,938.55. There's my income. We're going to take the actual of the expenses and then come up with the ending balance of how much was sitting in the checking account before my May income hit the bank. So that's what we're doing here. $7,162.34. We're subtracting the $2,853.67, and then we're subtracting the $1,938.55. That gave me $2,370.12 that was sitting in the bank account the night before May's deposit hit. Whew, I did it. I made through. And then if you look here, same number is right here, and I have the same number right there. So I do have everything lined up. That closes out paycheck 2. All the bills were paid for in the month. All the spending was taken care of for the month of April, and this was what was left over. A lot of this money, let's see, we had balance forward $3,000 from the previous month. Some of that was tax return. Some of this was transfer money to cover bills. And then I paid the siding, but it still left $1,500 in the bank. So we had this. We had this deposit. Just all kinds of stuff. So this $3,000 was most of it. Let's see. Yeah, that was that. And so that's when we had our tax returns, and then a random deposit from Navy Cash, not sure. And then that was the $10,000 for the siding, which I reduced every time I made a check. I didn't pay for it all at once. I paid for it twice. Half up front, well, over half up front, and then the rest at the end. So this closes out the month of April, and I am glad to have April done. Sorry about the footsteps. My son's walking around his room upstairs. So, yeah, this is April closeout. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more of my videos, please subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys next time. Have an amazing and blessed day. Bye.
I'm out of rhyme, but I'll only tell you that I'm out of time. I'm sick of love songs. I'm tired of this, and I wanna tell you straight just like it is. You're watching